You're listening to the official Reformed Stoic Podcast, covering politics, philosophy, theology, conspiracy theories. I'm ready to get to the bottom of this life. Are you? Join Wolfgang, Sketty Squad, Purity Gang, as we strive to take dominion over this dying planet. I am Reformed Stoic, and this is my podcast. Let's go. Mike's looking a little quiet. Maybe the pop filter is too far away or something. We should be all right. I'll talk loudly. All right, guys. Well, I feel like things are really hectic over here in my world. I really don't want to be making excuses this early in the life of the podcast, but what can I say, dude? Family's visiting, and what does it amount to when family visits? It basically amounts to I get random calls while they're here all week. It's like, hey, we're doing this right now. Are you going to come? Well, I'm actually. Oh, come on! I never get to see you. I never get to see you. Come on. Okay, well, I guess I have to. So I guess I'll be there in 5 seconds. Just pretty much. I don't know. I don't know, dude. I don't want to talk crap about my family, but short podcast today. We'll see. I'll watch my phone because I think people are doing other stuff. I'll keep the show going past 7 if I don't get any calls or anything. But most likely it's going to be a shorter show. No podcasts on Sundays. I'm taking this Monday off. And then we'll just kind of play it by ear. So all this week I'm going to have family visiting, and I'll just kind of try to keep it going, but I feel really busy. I just really crave more alone time, more me time, more time to think. Anyway, first, well, here's the show for you today. We're going to do off the grid survival, living off the grid, and then we're going to learn about the Great Schism. So without further ado, welcome to the news segment. You're listening to the Reformed Stoic News segment. Let's go! Alright. My people now. People, the times have been a changing. Very nice, very nice. Alright, I got my blue drink. Got my news fired up, ready to go. Let's go ahead and start with a nice little video about living off the grid with no money. The clickbait title got my attention, and I made sure to get a newer video, so this is from at least this year.
Of you looking for land to go off grid, you may be thinking to yourself right now that might not be a possible dream, right? Post-COVID, land prices have been going through the roof along with almost everything else in order to develop a homestead. So how does someone actually go off grid if they don't have any money? Well, I got 4 ideas for you that can help you go off grid before the end of the year.
Skitty.
Let's go ahead and get right into them. Now, first off, you may have already heard about owner financing. You can find owner finance properties throughout the country. Now, if you don't have very much money, you may want to think twice about going to a place like Hawaii, where costs of things are double the price of most things somewhere else. But in places like Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, there's cheap owner.
All those places sound great to me, too. Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska. I knew a guy at Berkeley who was from Missouri, and he made it sound super cozy. And I remember him mentioning that you could buy like a huge house, man. You could buy like a McMansion practically for like way less than you would expect. I mean, this was back in like 2010 when this guy was saying this to me, but all those places sound cozy to me, man. Like more middle United States, plains of land, farms. There's a reason I'm doing this topic, man. I'm just thinking about being away lately. It's so crazy how I don't want to like talk down on people. It's not that I don't like people at church. It's not that I don't like my family. It's just I just find myself wanting to get away from it all, man. And then, continue to do these kind of creative pursuits, but from the comfort of my home, far removed from the grid. Internet is important. Food is important. So I would probably like compromise and just live in some hodunk little town with, a couple grocery stores. And anyway, it's just dreaming right now.
Owner finance land where you could get hundreds of acres for pennies on the dollar. You don't have to put very much down, and the monthly payments are totally doable if you have a way to bring an income in. There's a lot of websites out there that list owner finance land. You could check out landwatch.com or countryclassics.com, both sites with lots of properties throughout America that are relatively affordable and financed by the owner. Now, the thing about owner financing is you can usually get in there without having to have a big down payment, but the trade-off is the interest payments are pretty high. Typically, the interest runs 5 to 10% on an owner finance property, whereas right now, if you had a typical bank mortgage, you're at 3.5%. So you can see it's a lot higher than normal interest rates, but if you don't have a down payment, it's a great way to get onto some land. Another way to get onto some land with very little money is maybe checking out the USDA Rural Development Loans. I myself went through the process a little while back to try and apply for one of these loans. It's a great program put on by USDA, a governmental agency, where the loans are low to zero down payment and the interest rates are really low. Now, the homes have to be located in a semi-rural location. Where I live here in Hawaii, there are these loans given out where I currently live right now. So I'm, 10 miles from Hilo, and I could get a rural development loan for a home. Now, they're pretty easy to apply for. You just have to find a bank that offers these loans, and you have to be sure to apply for a conventional loan and then be turned down, and then you qualify for applying for a USDA rural development loan. Now, once you get land, you can then go take it a step further and apply for the USDA NRCS EQIP grant. I know that's a lot of letters right there, but that grant right there is something you want to remember, the EQIP grant. Once you have a piece of property, that grant can pay for almost everything that you want to install. Fencing, greenhouses, animal enclosures, irrigation, compost, mulch, you name it. It pays for so much on a homestead that it is a really great program to get into. So keep that in mind if you ever do get a piece of land of your own. Another way to get out there onto land of your own is to find free land. Amazingly enough, free land does exist. Sometimes you'll see on social media a post about a house being sold for $1. Or you could find, there's websites online that list free land in places like Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Oklahoma, where you can get a plot of free land. But there is a catch. There is no such thing as a free lunch, as they say in economics, and nothing is really free. And so you get this free land or this house for $1, but you're expected to develop it or to remodel it. And sometimes that could cost well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you got to really check out what the terms are for free land. Maybe you can get that land and park an RV on it. Maybe there's some really loose terms on what it takes for you to qualify. But search out there. The internet is an awesome tool to be able to find stuff like this. Finding any of these tips helpful so far? If you are, why don't you plant your finger
Yikes.
on that like button right now? So help me thrive. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so now this last way for you to get onto some land, if you have no money, is one of my favorite ways. It's a little bit outside the box. You don't exactly own the land for yourself, but in fact, this way might be even better. I'm talking about caretaking land, being a property manager. All these ways are great ways for you to get onto land if you have no money. The other methods I mentioned before, you have to have income in order to still pay for that land. If you get it owner financed, if you got a USDA rural development loan, or even if you found free land, you have to pay for something. But if you can work trade at somebody else's land where they're trying to develop an off-grid homestead, and you can live that life tomorrow. There are posts all over Facebook and Craigslist and on websites like woof.com where you can find places for you to be able to trade your time and services to help develop the land in exchange for a home and sometimes food, which can be a pretty awesome thing. In fact, if you have real skills, you can get paid for doing it. That's what I did for a number of years in Malibu, out of all places. I got paid to live on an awesome property in Malibu and to develop their property into a permaculture food forest. And I got paid pretty well to do it too. And it was an awesome experience, one where I learned a lot, and one that I wish I can do today. Now, this opportunity here is mostly available for single people, couples, and maybe a couple with one kid. But once you start having a family, the opportunities really start to dry up. I always felt like while the owner of the land had this beautiful piece of property, he was always out working, paying for it. Whereas I was the one getting paid to stay on that land and to really appreciate it. It was an awesome experience. And if you really want to get off grid, that is the number one way to go off grid with no money right there. Check that out. Woofing, Workaway, Craigslist, Facebook, build some real skills. Get a job right now where you can build skills in landscape development and installations, and then find a place for you to offer those skills to. All right, well, there you have it, guys. 4 ways for you to get off grid and to get some land or to live on land with little to no money. I hope these tips today gave you hope that it's possible that you can go off land even in this high real estate priced environment. Next video, I'm going to be sharing how to develop that land with very little money, how to get your home built, how to establish water.
It sure sounds nice, doesn't it? Oh, man. Well, it's at least good information to have. I'm sure it's an option for some of you. Yeah, man. I mean, if you could get paid to live off of somebody else's land and manage it, would be nice. I just wish I was getting more emails and phone calls and, hey, here's an opportunity here, here's an opportunity here, here's an opportunity here. And, of course, whenever I say that, people are like, you need to make your own opportunities. I mean, it'd probably be worth looking for, I guess, but, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let's see what some people are saying in the comments. Honestly, just thinking of running away from society altogether and live a survivalist life without buying land. Just disappear, and if I can stay out of sight for 5 years, I'll be presumed dead, and I'll be truly living off the grid. I would honestly love to do that. What's that guy's name? Chris McCandless? Yeah. Yeah, in the ballpark of that. Just leaving it all behind, man. That's sure how I'm feeling lately. And then you have your family who's like, oh, but we love you, and I'd miss you. And, it's so just fabricated, man. I feel bad. People who say they don't like the podcast and they like hearing me talk about my life, well, there's a little bit of that for you. Like, family-wise, they just, they say they love you, and, we do. We love each other, but when I'm there, it's just like I'm in the background. I just nod my head. Nobody really wants to hear my input on anything, and I just I would wish them all the best and just disappear into the ether, man, to my books, my study, my creative pursuits. It sure sounds nice. But I just feel trapped right now. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Everything costs money, everything. I just don't know the move, you guys. I just don't know how to get any money or get anywhere in life. Anyway, let's take a look at this article. How to live off the grid. 8 things you need to know. 8 things you need now. So you want to know how to live off the grid. It's simple, really. Move to the woods, build a cabin, throw on some solar panels and wind turbine for power, and drill a well. Oh boy, that just sounds really easy and simple, doesn't it? Then start raising chickens, cows, and pigs, and sit on your front porch while sipping coffee and staring out at the beautiful natural wilderness around you. Easy, right? Not really. It sure sounds nice. Man, it just sounds nice, bro. Just not being around people. Oh, man, that sounds great. And that place looks nice. It takes planning, preparation, and work to make the move off-grid. And once you're there, the work will continue with the maintenance and upkeep of your homestead. Let's make this as simple as possible by breaking down, step by step, the most important things you need for living off-grid. It all goes back to the basics. Living a sustainable life while being self-sufficient is key. Are you ready? How to live off the grid. Basics, land. First, you'll need a good location. How do you find that? Well, we wrote an in-depth article explaining how to find land for living off the grid. It details how to find and pick the perfect property for your needs. Your land is the foundation of your off-grid life. To go off-grid, you need a parcel of land that lends itself to your new lifestyle choice. That will usually mean finding land in a remote area, far from strict building codes and permitting regulations. Land in these areas is less expensive, property taxes are lower, and you can get more acreage for your money. Remote areas. Let's go. Shelter. Next thing you need is shelter. This is a fundamental need every human being requires to survive. Your off-grid home can come in the form of a cabin, a traditional wood frame home, a tiny house, a cob house, an earth ship, a straw bale home, or even a yurt, which is basically a large octagonal-shaped tent. There are many different types of shelters, and it's a good idea to choose which type of shelter you will build or buy long before moving onto your land. Water and water collection system. A good, clean, potable water source is vital for living off the grid. You will most likely not have access to city water or municipal county water sources on your land, so you must choose a piece of land that either has a natural water source or where it's convenient to haul water. The other resource you need is a water collection system. This could be something as simple as rain barrel water catchment attached to your home's gutter, or a more complex cistern water collection system that collects all the rainwater from your roof. No power lines within 45 minutes of my house. Let's go. Food. Grow your own food. Since you will most likely not have everyday access to grocery stores and convenience stores to shop for food. And I'd kind of like to still have access to that, man. I'd just like to live somewhere with private property, and I'm torn, man. The plan was originally to be a city person and live in the city, but it's just not working out that way, guys. And it's so depressing talking to normal people about it. It's like, oh, come on, man. Come on, bro. Oh, man. Come on, man. It's a shame that everything went the way it did. Politically, the movements in the United States, the absolute rotting of Western society. Anyway, you'll benefit by growing your own in a garden or greenhouse. You don't grow steaks in a greenhouse, baby. You don't grow pork chops in a greenhouse. I'm trying to eat. I'm trying to get some chicken. Ideally, it's wise to have a traditional garden, some raised beds, and a greenhouse full of fruits and veggies. Meat and eggs can also be produced on your homestead if you have it set up for livestock. Learning how to preserve and can your own food will also allow you to store your food away in a safe place and build up a nice supply of food in case you need it for an emergency. Then your trips to town can be used to stock up on other necessities. It's the bare necessities, the bare necessities. Don't worry about your struggles and your strife. Power generation system. Off-grid power. This is where the actual off-grid part comes in. Since you will not be connected to the power grid, you will need to be able to generate electricity yourself. This means having a power generating system with backups that can provide you with all the electricity you will need to run all your appliances, stove, refrigerator, washing machine, TV, computer, and charge your cell phone and other mobile devices. A few 250-watt solar panels and a good 250 to 500-watt wind turbine will probably suffice for most homes depending on how much power you use at once. Keep in mind the wind turbine is a good backup for the solar panels. When the sun is not shining, there's usually some kind of wind, but when the wind is not blowing, you'll need the solar panels. Using both power generation technologies will supplement your electricity production, and they complement one another. Planning on a fish pond plus chickens for eggs. That sounds nice, bro. Another consideration you must make is how much power you use. Most likely, during nighttime hours, real nighttime hours, you will not have any power generation unless the wind is blowing if all you have are solar panels and a wind turbine with no power storage device. We'll get into that in a minute. Figure out how much power all your devices and appliances use. To do this, look on the back or underside of your electronic devices, and there should be a label or play card detailing the wattage and amperage each device uses. Now take all those numbers, add them up, and that will give you a good idea of how much power you might use during any given 24-hour period. Granted, you most likely will not be using all your devices and appliances at once all day long, but this will help you figure out how much power and wattage you will need to generate, which will help you design your solar power system. You'll know how many solar panels to buy. Typically, 4 250-watt solar panels should be enough when coupled with a wind power system. A 1500-watt solar system is about average. It's also a good idea to have a backup gas or preferably biodiesel powered generator. You can get a 1500 to 3000 watt generator fairly inexpensively for under $1,000. Okay, let's go. Gotta have a community. Let's make a new nation. New nation time, baby. I'll be good. I'll be trad. It doesn't matter. Power storage system. So, you're generating your own electricity during the day. That was an inside joke that probably nobody understood. That's great. But when the sun goes down and the wind stops blowing, guess what? Unless you have a storage system, you won't have electricity. So if you plan on watching movies on Netflix or surfing the internet late at night, then you're going to need a battery power storage system. This is where it gets expensive, as battery technology is kind of lagging behind solar panel technology. Batteries, however, are getting better and are able to store more electricity for longer periods of time more efficiently than ever before. But you're going to pay for it. They're not cheap. And the battery bank and storage system, complete with charge controller, inverter, etc., could set you back as much as the solar panels and wind turbine combined. Yikes. Many folks opt out of purchasing a battery storage system because it could double the cost of any solar power system. All in all, this is a personal choice that you need to make. I personally would choose to have a battery backup rather than rely solely on the power coming directly from the solar panels and wind turbine. If you have the money, a good battery power storage system is worth its weight in gold. If you have the money, poor people need not apply. Waste disposal and septic system. No one likes talking about it, but it's a fact of life. You're going to have to deal with waste disposal. You'll have to have some sort of compositing waste disposal system, or you'll dig a traditional septic system. Either way, you will have to follow local and federal guidelines on waste disposal. Besides the law, it's just not sanitary to dump your waste into a hole and hope for the best. This is not to say that it is wrong, just don't do it near your water source or your animal's water source if you raise livestock. Build a proper septic system. If you're into using your own waste as fertilizer, then more power to you. Yikes! Just know that the city, county, federal guidelines probably won't allow it. This is all pretty complicated, man. It takes lots of money, and you have to be like a fucking hardcore gung-ho guy who knows how to survive. And I'd love to spend time and effort figuring out how to do all that, man. But, you know, some people just didn't really fare too well with how COVID played out. And I feel like the people who did, which seems to be everybody in my family, they're just not really appreciative of that. They don't seem to have a lot of empathy for people who like aren't having the best time of their lives right now. Anyway, mindsets and will to live off the grid. Perhaps the most important thing you need to live off grid is the mindset and the will. It's easy to talk about and say you'd love to live off the grid, free from the confines and drudgery of modern life. The idea of that kind of freedom can be enticing. It takes hard work though, and lots of it. Living sustainably takes a solid commitment, sharp focus, and motivation. The self-sufficient lifestyle is at the heart of independence. And with that independence comes responsibility, not just for your lifestyle choice, but to your family and those depending on you. Living off the grid can be expensive to get started and will take lots of hard work on your part to keep it going. But if you're ready, willing, and able, the rewards are great. They're great rewards, neats. These people are living off the grid. To help inspire you a bit, we've decided to show you some of our favorite stories of people who decided to leave their old lives behind and move off grid. They built their own home, set up their own power and waste systems, and most grow their own food. California Earthship, baby. Let's just take a look at some of these pictures. Cabin built in 12 days in Canada. Let's go. Oh, bro, I'm capable of hard work. I just don't like to do it for our satanic trader system. Man, I can lift heavy shit, and I can work for long hours, and I got so much energy. It's crazy, dude. I have so many ideas and so much creative potential and so much to offer, and I just feel like the world doesn't want it. It's like I was saying yesterday on my rant yesterday. I was like, I feel like I've evolved. I've evolved into like something near my final form, and it's made me completely incompatible with the world. Like, I feel like the world is trying to keep men from becoming this. The world is trying to keep men from like realizing themselves. And when you realize yourself, it's very hard to make it in the world. That's probably counter to what a lot of people do. Real men do this, real men do that. A real man can make it in the world. It's like, well, honestly, I think like a real intellectual in the modern day, current times, current year, it's possible, man. I don't sell hopelessness here, but the world doesn't want you, man. The world doesn't want real men. So never forget that. Never forget what Uncle Smear told you. The world doesn't want you, man. Especially if you're a real man. All right. I want to build an Earth ship. I've actually made money off of my channel. Yeah, I'm not even close, baby. Not even close, but I've become something else. Thank you, Honest Man. Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm liking the podcast too. I'm just making a couple of excuses lately. You know, what can I say? Family's visiting, dude. Family's visiting, and they just really, like, guilt trip me if I don't do whatever they want to do. So we're dropping them down to an hour and a half, maybe this whole week. No podcast Monday, but I think it's the start of something positive, baby. Let's keep it rocking. What does that say? Regretly-less? Regretty! Regretlies. Let's regretty. Never forgetty how we regretty.
Rio and I have been in this spot for a week.
Oh, yeah. I remember I chose this video. She's a cute sweetie. And you know what, guys? You gotta like hold back the black pill hounds. You gotta hold back the MGTOW hounds sometimes. Everybody just release the hounds. It's like as soon as you see a woman doing anything, she hit the wall. She's a roastie. She's going traveling. I'm traveling. Oh, I'm traveling. Oh, she's riding dick all over the world. You just want to like jump down her throat. Maybe this girl's cool, dude. You know what I mean? Like the kind of girls who leave society, like maybe they can't find what they want, and maybe, you know, give her a shot. Give her a shot. Everybody just wants to like immediately, she's a sweetie. She hit the wall. She rode the carousel. Let's just withhold judgment until she actually says something. By the way, dog mom, Black Lives Matter. Let's go. I'm not judging. Not yet.
The public land that I was hoping to go to, and I knew it was about a 50-50 shot of it being accessible at this time of year. They told me no, it was not accessible.
You know what's always accessible? Chad on Tinder. There's still hope.
So I'm just gonna drive and see how it turns out. No idea what awaits for us, but here we go.
Imagine like taking a shot of your key. Like she took a second to like film herself turning the key so she can put that in the video. I'm starting my journey. The key turn that changed my life. Think of all the possibilities. She couldn't get Giga Chad to commit. I feel like she's trying to get people to feel sorry for her. She wants some Chad in her comments to be like, baby, I'd take care of you. I'd love you. You shouldn't have left society, baby. Like this music is like, I'm so sad. Feel sorry for me. Why did the world let me down? And I guess that's kind of how I am too, but I don't know. I don't have a vlog with almost 700,000 views.
Where the heck are we?
Okay, you're very artsy. What an adventure. Oh, dog mom hype. Oh, I like that dog. I could dig a dog mom, dude. You know what? It sure would be awkward though. Like seriously, if I met a girl who wanted to move in with me and she had a dog, it would be interesting to see if a dog could get along with my cats. Usually what happens is the dogs are like really nice and they just want to like sniff like, "Hey, how's it going? I love you." And Wrinkles is like, no, I don't want to be your friend. Don't assume I want to be your friend." Cats are usually the ones who aren't very nice. Dogs are just like, "Hey, my new friend. Everybody's my friend. Hey, how's it going?" Cats are like, "Oh, yikes. Get that guy out of here." Okay, can we talk about stuff? Are we just gonna, like, be artsy?
Crazy duck. I took that afternoon to soak up the beauty of my new landscape and to get some household chores done.
Even when she's doing her household chores, it's like an opportunity to show off her ass.
Rio and I just had our evening walk / run around for sunset, and I can see way across on the other side of this.
So why does she live off grid? That's what the video is called. Tell us why.
And edited a video.
You tricked
Good morning.
us. Good morning.
Rio and I did not sleep well last night. A huge windstorm rolled in, and it was just tossing the bus around, which I've never experienced before because this bus is heavy. It takes a lot. But I woke up to a weather warning this morning going through 8 p.m. tonight that there's going to be high winds of 55 consistently and gusts of 100 miles an hour. So I was gonna leave this spot today and start traveling west, but I don't know if that's the safest decision at this point with the gusts like this. They're southwest winds, and I have to drive west across the valley to get to the mountains and then go over a mountain pass, and I just don't know if it's safe to cross the valley right now, and I don't know if the wind...
Yeah, well, she tricked us. She called it Why I Live Alone Off Grid, but she's not explaining it. You tricked us. Traitor. Oh, $50. Thank you for your perspective into life. Dude, people just throw money at women. What does the internet amount to? A girl's like, I went kayaking today. She takes some cute selfie, like, in her kayak. Just take my money. Just take my money. Here's $50. Thank you for your perspective. Wow, kayaking. Thank you for your perspective on kayaking. Dude, all of my freaking female relatives, like, they all talk about their TikToks like it's going to be a job, or like they're going to be famous on TikTok, or pulling out their phone every 20 seconds. Like, my dad has, like, hey, look at this plate. Look at this, like, shell-shaped plate. And then they film that and put it on TikTok. It's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so great on TikTok. It's like, well, my dad holding a freaking shell plate for 20 seconds probably will get more views than anything I ever did. It's funny, dude. I'm like Brian from Family Guy. Like, the Brian wrote a book and everybody kind of just gives him shit about his book, how it's like mediocre and he's like a failed intellectual, and kind of like a combination of Meg and Brian. This video was a failure. Let's find somebody else's off the grid story. I gave the sweetie a shot and she let us down. Boomer horror story. It's the most terrifying story you'll ever heard. You heard preparing to build an off the grid tiny house. Oh my gosh, dude. Look at us. Wee, I'm making a tiny house. Alone and cold, living off the grid. Doing it fabulously. You see, sweetie, some people don't get almost 1 million views. Like, you live off the grid, yes, but you also have a YouTube channel where your videos regularly net over 500,000 views. Do you know what that means, sweetie? You're less like somebody who really lives off of the grid. Like me and my dad, one time my dad was showing a remote property in Kodiak, Alaska. Like, you could either take a mail plane to get there, or you could take a boat there. I think it was like a 4-hour boat trip. First we took a boat there. I think we took a boat back too. No, actually, I think we took a mail plane back. Yeah, and the mail plane was like an hour back, and we saw some bears. And she doesn't have a YouTube channel. Like, she just lives off the grid, and nobody, like, cares. You know, I think it's a lot different than having, like, a giga mega army of people who, you know, may or may not be primarily simps, watching and validating everything you do. So, I don't want, you know, good for you. Good for you for having a channel. Yeah, I have a channel too. I also have a channel, so I can't judge people for having channels. Oh, look at this. Look at this thumbnail, dude. Look at this thumbnail. I'm alone and off the grid. Does my cleavage look good? Is it good? Is this a good picture? Good. I'm going to use that for the thumbnail. Off-grid life. Robert, man, under 100,000 views. Let's get it. I'll bet this is a vlog too, though. I live off the grid, looking at the stars with my kitty. And I wonder about the big old world out there. Yo, that looks cozy, bro. Rocking with the kitties in that little ugly shack. Like, that's the way you do it, baby. Why do they keep saying story? They keep saying everything's this isn't a story. I want somebody to, like, tell the story of how they went off the grid. Tell me a story.
Miguel, I hope I pronounced this correct. And then Miriam Fabiano. Miriam Fabiano has...
Yikes, dude. About how I left the grid. Let's get it. Why I chose to live off the grid. Oh, here we go. Another sweetie with almost 800,000 views. I can't afford it anymore. Well, with the proceeds from your channel, now you can probably afford it. YouTube has just kind of tainted everything, dude. Off-grid jungle life. Look at that. Off-grid jungle life. Look at my butt. Tee-hee. Off-grid jungle life. 500,000 views. Tee-hee. Tee-hee. I live off the grid. Whee! I live off the grid. Whee! Nature. People just used to do this stuff, and they didn't have the validation of a vlog. People used to just like, it's like you can bike. There was bikers, and now there's bikers with YouTube channels with hundreds of thousands of views. There was bodybuilders, and now there's bodybuilders with YouTube channels with hundreds of thousands of views. Like, people used to just do stuff without like the validation, and then there's like a separate competition where it's like, oh, you're a bodybuilder? Like, how many views do you have on YouTube? It's like, oh, I actually just, like, eat and lift weights and do the thing. I don't really have a huge YouTube channel. It's like, oh, well, how do you know what you're talking about, bro? Whee! Life is not a journey. Oh my goodness. Wow! What? Whee! They're just, whee! I'm living the grid. 1.4 million views. Whee! We don't live in society anymore. We don't live in society anymore. This is so fun. It's so fun not being a part of society with 1.4 million views. You're more a part of society than people who live here. A guy with a dead-end cubicle job who rots away in his apartment is more off the grid than you guys are. Life's a journey. Whee! I mean, I'm kind of being an asshole, bro. It's like, what, they're not allowed to have fun, or everything has to be... I'm like the Grinch. I'm like a Grouch. It's like, oh, everybody who has a big channel, you're just jealous because you got a small channel. It's like, I don't know, dude. Like, you know, a lot of guys leave the grid because they don't fucking like anybody, and nobody likes them, and... Hey, how's it going, fuckers? I'm rotting away alive. Like, imagine a guy who shouldn't have a vlog. Like, the kind of person who nobody would watch their vlog. He's got, like, a disgusting beard. It's like, hey, fuckers, I live in the woods by myself and eat garbage. Here's some of the garbage I'm eating. Like, a lot of people who leave society just... nobody cares about, dude. And that's why they leave. But these people are making it trendy and fun. We left the city for the simple life. This is so fake, dude. There's people who actually live this life. This is fake. Raising my baby off the grid. I'm trad. I'm so trad, and I'm so not tied up in society. It's about to get worse. Man quit his job to live off the grid in Arizona desert. Lost your virginity 2 days ago. Let's go. Well, dude, you're supposed to, like, love someone, man. You're supposed to have a fucking romance, and that was never really real, though. That's the sad thing. It's artificial, and, like, it kind of worked before the internet. I think some people accidentally experienced real love a few times. But yeah, just having sex, man. It's supposed to be special. I thought what we had was special. Okay, out of the grid. Let's get it. He's living out. He's playing drums out of the grid. Let's get it. I'm struggling with Winter Off Grid with 1.2 million views. And slowly I began to hate them for having 10 million views. Kristen Durskin. Oh yeah, we watched this sweetie before. She's a survival sweetie. Interesting. There's just something very not off-griddy. Oh, here's like a Chad Stacy couple. Let's check these people out. This just, I don't know what it is. It just feels not off-griddy. Yeah, look, he's got like his sleeve tattoos. He's got his bro dude sleeve tattoos. And where's all the black-pilled people, dude? They just live off the grid like the old-fashioned way.
Things going wrong. What could go wrong is going wrong.
What would renovating an abandoned house be without some major issues and surprises?
Josh!
This week, unexpected problems arrive as we struggle to meet our deadlines. Are you pretending to be?
Ew, don't film your kids.
Now that all the concrete is poured, we're going to pull the control line again, and then we can start getting our anchor bolts placed into the concrete.
All right, guys. Well, that pretty much concludes for our off-the-grid portion. It's very superficial. It seems like it's become a competition. Oh, you live off the grid? How big is your YouTube channel? Oh, well, we tried to do vlogs, but nobody cared. Oh, that's too bad. I get like 1 million views on all of my off the grid vlogs. Like, I wonder if people can enjoy it for reasons other than just like having a massive YouTube channel. Like, I'm pretty sure people used to. Let's film ourselves doing chores. All right. The Great Schism of 1054. You had to see it to believe it, baby. During the Pope's September 2010 visit to the United Kingdom, one protester's sign stood out, far out from the others. In large markered letters on the back of the pizza box, the theologically minded protester declared, "Drop the filioque." Filioque. Why all the fuss? Assuming that protester was merely seeking to get noticed, the sign worked, landing him television coverage and a few interviews. But why did he oppose that phrase? And what does that phrase even mean? The single Latin word on the sign means "and the sun." And the single Latin words hold the dubious honor of being one of the main factors responsible for the largest church split to date. The Great Schism in 1054. Between the Roman Catholic Church in the West, with its seat of power in Rome, and the Orthodox Church in the East, with its seat of power in Constantinople. That's a lot for a single word to bear. Theologians in the West were drawn to filioque because it reflected their understanding of the Trinity. They believed the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. In 598 AD, at the Council of Toledo, the Western Church officially adopted the phrase and amended the Nicene Creed accordingly. Since 598, the churches in the West have said the extra Latin word when reciting the Creed. Christ's teaching in John 16:7 offers biblical warrant for the phrase. Eastern churches, however, never appreciated that argument. The Eastern churches, while affirming the Trinity as three persons in one substance, tend to emphasize the threeness of the Trinity, the individual persons. The West, again, while affirming the Orthodox definition of the Trinity, tends to emphasize the unity of the Godhead. If we fast forward from the late 500s to the middle of the thousands, we find that this ever-contentious phrase acutely came under the spotlight. And here's where things get complicated. As politics, both in the empire and in the church, theology and personalities all got jumbled together. The Western and Eastern churches were headed for showdown. Let's see, how much do we have here? All right. Let's go ahead and pop off one of these videos.
In July of 1054, after an unfortunate fight between the Patriarch of Constantinople and a delegate of the Pope, the leaders of the Eastern and Western churches mutually excommunicated one another. For many, this event marks the definitive cause of the Great Schism, the moment when the two churches permanently fell out of communion with one another. But is it really that simple? While undoubtedly the most dramatic event of the relationship, history reveals that it was neither the beginning nor the end of the story of schism between East and West. This is Catholicism in Focus. Even though the Eastern and Western churches did not declare an official state of schism until 1054, disharmony and conflict had been present for centuries, stemming from a wide variety of issues. The earliest and most obvious cause of conflict came down to culture. Essentially split between two nations, the churches had different social structures, were influenced by different philosophies, and most importantly, they spoke different languages. Imagine trying to determine precise and orthodox teachings about how God can be one yet three, eternal yet died on the cross, and then imagine trying to do that in another language. Besides the fact that this added difficulty led to less enthusiasm to work together, and the fact that great distance and danger of travel at times made it impossible to meet on a regular basis, there were numerous cases in which mistranslation caused major tension between the two. Take the issue of icons, discussed at the Second Council of Nicaea in 787. Officially promulgated in Greek, the council declared that venerating icons was permitted and not considered idolatry because the image was a vehicle for worship, not the object of worship itself. Unfortunately, when this was taken back to the West and translated for Charlemagne's court, the word venerate was translated as adore, an obvious heresy. In turn, Charlemagne called a local council in Frankfurt in 794 to condemn the teachings of Nicaea, angering the East. Beyond strictly cultural issues, there
I think we're only going till 7 today, so we got just over half an hour left.
were also issues of theology that caused a strife between the churches. One such issue was the role of clerical celibacy. Although its strict enforcement wasn't universalized in the West until centuries later, there has always been an emphasis placed on it, something that the East never imposed and did not agree with. There were also differences when it came to defining and emphasizing the nature of the Trinity, the use of leavened or unleavened bread in worship, and varied rules when it came to fasting. But no matter how much culture, language, and theology created unrest, they were not enough to cause a schism on their own. No, what eventually pushed them over the edge is something that gets to us all: politics. Originally, the church had 5 major centers of religious authority where the most important bishops resided: Rome, Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem. While a stretch to say that they worked together as a democracy, there is definitely a sense that, at least in the beginning, there was a mutual respect and dependence on one another for leadership. Over the course of the first millennia, the political landscape of the Christian world changed tremendously, witnessing the fall of Rome, the rise of Islam, weakened nations, and constant war. As this political unrest continued, Rome became increasingly isolated from the other sees. While the remaining 4 still worked as collegial members of an authoritative body, the Bishop of Rome began to work more independently, and as he gained more civil power, began to see himself as the sole shepherd of not only the Western Church, but of all of Christendom. As a result, issues like the Filioque controversy began to arise. In the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed of 381, the line regarding the Holy Spirit reads, "I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father." If this seems incomplete to Catholics today, that's because the words "and the Son," or Filioque in Latin, were added in the 6th century to combat heretics and to clarify the West's interpretation. And while it might seem like a strictly theological issue without practical importance, don't be fooled. At its core, this was an issue of political and ecclesial authority. The East, coming from a collegial and apostolic perspective, could not accept the Pope's authority over an ecumenical council. The West, coming from a more hierarchical and Christological perspective, saw it as the rightful place of the Pope to make such decisions. 2 centuries later, another controversy arose over this question of jurisdiction. In 858, Emperor Michael III deposed the Patriarch of Constantinople and replaced him with a more favorable leader. Pope Nicholas, believing himself to be the shepherd of the whole flock, investigated the events, summoned a council, and concluded that this was an inappropriate decision. Going over the emperor's authority, he deposed the new patriarch and reinstated the old one. But wait, it gets worse. When Nicholas was questioned by Michael, he essentially responded that kings need popes, but popes don't need kings. Ooh, buddy! Yeah, Nicholas was excommunicated by the East for that. But the church remained together. Even in 1009, when Pope Sergius IV sent a letter to the East that included the Filioque, and the East in turn removed the Pope from the official list of prayers, schism had not yet been reached. And yet, at the same time, the church remained largely divided, officially in communion, but unofficially fractured for centuries. Placed within the context of the wider contentious story, the events of 1054 might still jump out as dramatic and damaging to the relationship, but it's unfair to say that it would have been understood in its time as a permanent split. Because really, everything that's been mentioned up to this point is operating on a very high level. Political authority, esoteric theological formulas, translations of official documents. The working man or woman did not give one iota about these matters. That was until 1098 and the First Crusade. You know how you try to do something nice to fix a problem but end up doing something much worse? Yeah, that's sort of what happened. Extending an olive branch that had previously been withheld, Pope Urban sent troops to Constantinople to aid the East in defending its city. Unfortunately, instead of fighting for the East, the Western soldiers began fighting against the East for part of the reconquered lands, acted rude and greedy, and eventually drove the Greek Patriarch into exile so they could install their own Latin one. Oops. For the first time, the conflict between East and West had been brought to the level of the people, and they wanted nothing of it. Language, culture, theology, and politics aside, they just hated each other on a gut level. More than any excommunication or power grab by a pope, what cemented division between the two churches was the unfortunate actions of greedy soldiers, coming from the West, but not representing it well. Luckily, things have changed since then. In 1964, Pope Paul VI embraced Patriarch Athenagoras I on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, a symbolic gesture of peace that established a tradition honored by their successors. The following year, the North American Orthodox Catholic Theological Consultation began meeting, and has been meeting semi-annually since. In 2003, they even reached the conclusion and recommended to their prospective bishops that the filioque was no longer a church-dividing issue. And most recently, being that he's a very collegially minded pope, Pope Francis has made tremendous strides towards reunification, explicitly stating in 2014 that he's seeking communion with the Orthodox churches. And maybe that's where we're headed. The point I think to remember in all of this is that division did not happen overnight. Rather than just being over one moment of passion that resulted in mutual excommunications, the division between East and West developed over a long period of time and on a wide variety of issues. Unification, if that's what we seek, is going to take a lot of time to develop as well. But if we truly believe that we are the body of Christ and we can agree on so much of what makes us Christian, that's one task we should be ready to take on. Thanks for watching this episode of Catholicism in Focus.
Okay. Yeah, Western Church, Eastern Church, Catholic versus Orthodox. I definitely think that priests should be able to get married. It's kind of disingenuous when you have, like, because, you know, priests are intellectuals, priests are good men, and when they're always becoming these genetic dead ends because of their place in the church, it's not really a positive thing. All right, showdown at the Hagia Sophia. One can almost wonder how the church managed to stay together until 1054. As far back as the 300s, the Eastern and Western churches had distinct cultures and languages, Greek versus Latin, distinct liturgical or worship practices and emphasis, distinct theological methods, distinct seats of power and autonomy, Constantinople versus Rome, distinct emperors, and distinct ecclesiastical leaders, Patriarch versus the Pope. These differences were pronounced and would easily flare up, such as the case in 1054. In fact, what happened in 1054 may very well be seen as making explicit what had long been implicit. Michael Ceruleus, Patriarch of Constantinople, had condemned the Western churches for the practice of using leavened bread for the Eucharist. Leo IX, the Roman pontiff from 1049 to 1054, dispatched emissaries to iron out the differences. These efforts at diplomacy failed miserably. The more the two sides talked, the more they disagreed. Neither side flinched, causing Leo IX's legates to enter the Hagia Sophia, the most important church in Constantinople and seat of the Eastern Patriarch, and place a papal bull of excommunication on the high altar. Cerularius, that is hard for me to pronounce. Cerularius countered by convening a council of bishops that condemned Pope Leo IX and his church, too. Among the reasons was the filioque clause. The Western Church, he argued, had overstepped its bounds when it amended the Nicene Creed. The Eastern Church had remained pure and true. The addition of filioque became a convenient hook upon which to hang all the contention and disagreement between the churches. So on July 16th, 1054, the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, as the Nicene Creed puts it, split. And then there were two.
This is a Powtoon video on the Great Schism, 1054 AD.
Let's go. A schism.
The Great Schism was the formal break between the Eastern and Western Christian churches in 1054 AD due to a variety of reasons. Cultural and political issues stemming from the division of the Roman Empire centuries before, as well as religious disagreements, led to the Great Schism in 1054 AD. As a result of the Great Schism, the Eastern and Western Christian churches officially became separate and independent of one another. Each church had its own unique and defining characteristics. The Western Christian Church went on to become known as the Roman Catholic Church, with its seat of power being located in the city of Rome. The Pope became the religious leader and eventually the ultimate authority over all of the Western Church. Members of the clergy or priests of the Roman Catholic Church were required to practice celibacy, which meant they could not get married nor engage in sexual relations. The West also accepted and used icons or religious images. The Eastern Christian Church took on several new names, such as the Eastern Orthodox, Byzantine Orthodox, or Greek Orthodox Church, with its seat of power in the city of Constantinople. The Patriarch was the religious leader or head of the church, but the Emperor maintained ultimate authority over the Christian Church. Unlike the Western Roman Catholic Church, priests in the Eastern Orthodox Church were allowed to marry. Another difference between the churches was that in the East, icons were not only rejected, but even destroyed, probably stemming from an influence of the religious purity of a neighboring religion known as Islam. With the fall of Rome in 476 AD and later the Great Schism of 1054 AD, the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church were able to assert themselves as the most powerful individual and institution in Western European society during the early and late medieval time periods. The Eastern Orthodox Church continued as the dominant religion with the Byzantine Empire as the official state religion. The Eastern Orthodox Church also became highly influential in the development of Russia as a nation-state, eventually becoming its official state religion as the Russian Orthodox Church. The relationship between the Western Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church continued to worsen when in 1204, Western Christian crusaders, who were supposed to capture the Holy Land of Jerusalem, decided to capture and destroy the city of Constantinople. Today, the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church remain divided, despite having experienced more positive relationships throughout the latter half of the 20th century.
All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up like extra early today. I'm going to go ahead and get through one more section of this article. After 1054. Maybe say some closing words and then just go ahead and wrap it up, man. I'm going to try to relax this week and have some good times with my family, but I'm kind of looking forward to this week passing. I just want to get some space for my thoughts, man. I feel like life is happening really fast. Somebody wants me to do a Pink Floyd cover on drums. Man, I'd love to do all kinds of drum covers. I don't know, dude. Drumming feels kind of pointless lately. It's unfortunate. I wish it didn't feel that way, but yeah, I feel pretty weird about drumming. All right. Here we go. After 1054, attempts were made to heal the breach, but none succeeded. When the Western Church launched the Crusades, all hopes for a reunion faded. During the Fourth Crusade in the early years of the 20th century, European armies sacked Constantinople, apparently distracted from their mission of securing the Holy Land. One historian of the Crusades described the 3-day siege of the city as leaving in its wake ghastly scenes of pillage and bloodshed. The great and ancient city of Constantinople was reduced to rubble and left in shambles. Historians and church leaders offer mixed reviews on life after the split. Some say the split left the Orthodox Church seemingly frozen in time, as it was isolated from cultural movements and events such as the Reformation and the Renaissance that so impacted the church in the West. The Eastern Church clung white-knuckled to its traditions, while the Western Church kept reinventing itself. To be sure, tradition runs deep in the Roman Catholic Church, but it runs far deeper in the Orthodox Church. Other observers lament the division, the large and ugly split. These folks wonder whether Christ's prayer for the church to be one from John 17 will ever be realized in light of our penchant to divide. However, the Great Schism is interpreted. It took centuries for the wounds to heal. It also took the new winds of the ecumenical spirit of the 20th century. On the heels of Vatican II, a council of the Roman Catholic Church held from 1962 to 1965, the two churches revoked their mutual excommunications and celebrated Mass together in a new, enlightened, modern world that would soon crumble, presumably with unleavened bread. After 911 years, the two churches reunited. Oh, after 911 years. Okay. I see 9/11, I just think, 9/11? But the reunion was more show than substance, resulting in little more than popes and patriarchs performing masses at each other's altars from time to time. Old wounds sometimes never heal. One fairly recent Roman Catholic source on the schism speaks of Constantinople's prominence as unwarrantable and uncanonical, chalking the city's rise to an accident of history. These two churches have been separated since the 4th century and continue to be so to the present day in practice, if not in fact. Let's go watching Revolver, huh? Yeah, I think that's going to be that for that topic today. I'm just going to end with a few words. If you guys feel like me right now, like life is happening really fast, you're not exactly sure where you're going, you feel like you got a couple of good ideas, but everything takes a lot of work. Like, it doesn't take that much work to do this podcast, but it's better if I'm better, you know, if I spend more time on it, if I like have better ideas and I take the time to find better sources. Especially on these last couple of short streams, I noticed the shift in momentum. The news topics go over better, you know, and it's not necessarily always news. It's just basically non-religious topics. There's the non-religious topics, and then there's the religious topics. And yeah, I can definitely feel like I'm losing some steam. Like, just not everybody wants to hear. Not everybody wants to learn about the Word of God. I want to continue to do it, but I feel like just for gaining more steam for the show, having a nice, healthy news segment that's primarily the most of the show. And I want to like make the intros a little bit longer too. Get a little bit more just kind of like, you know, reminiscent about whatever's going on in my life and talking to the chat, get the shows warmed up a little bit better. Make sure I keep hitting it with those two topics. We keep putting the smackdown on those two topics. And then maybe kind of like a video and an article for the religious segment. I enjoy the religious segment. I know a lot of people enjoy it. We're still just pretty early here, guys. We're still early in the history of this podcast. You know, it's just something that's going to take love and work and consistent effort, and we'll look at that. I already got family visiting for a week, and I really feel like it's thrown me off just a little bit. But, you know, we had fun. We had fun today. We had fun yesterday. So I will not be here tomorrow. As of now, Sundays are just kind of left open. No podcast. Maybe like a chill stream if there's time for it, but no podcast Monday. So I will be back on Tuesday, my friends, and yeah, I just really want to like harness the energy here. I would like to think that things aren't really that much different here than they were before, but we're just keeping it organized. We're keeping it productive. I think this is just going to be better for my channel to grow, for me to grow an audience. You know, if I cover relevant topics, people will snag some new viewers here and there. But we've only been doing it for a week, so we just still got to keep putting that effort in, boys. And we're going to be on life support this week while I visit the fam. So I hope everybody's doing good. I'm praying for you. Please pray for me too. let me go ahead and pray for all of us right now. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, I ask that you'd help me and my followers to have clarity in these dark times. Please help us to gain insight on what we should be doing, what direction our lives should be taking, what things deserve our energy the most, where our energy is going to pay off the most. Please just help us to find clarity, perspective, and once we find that perspective that I'm praying for you to guide us towards, that we can pursue it fully and put our best efforts into it. Thank you, Heavenly Father. I'm sorry for my sins. I ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, friendos. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.